Hello lovelies. Today we're going to be talking about bondage, and for that reason this video is really unlikely to be monetized, even though everything here is safe for work and there shouldn't really be any problem. I won't be too explicit. Still, no monetization, so if you feel like it, drop a tip in the jar or something. I don't know. Right, let's get to it, shall we? 50 Shades of Grey is terrible. It's not just objectively terrible as a film or as a series of books. It's terrible in the effect that it has had on the whole kink scene. If you want to get your ear talked off, go and talk to anyone involved even peripherally in kink and ask them what they think about 50 Shades of Grey, and they will proceed to bite your ear off with everything that's wrong and terrible and bad about it. Now, it's good in that it has interested a lot of people in kink, but it's bad in that most of these people come into it with no idea what the hell they're doing or what anything in there is like, or really anything about it other than they're perhaps a little bit turned on by the idea of being spanked or whatever. So there has been this flood of women of a certain age, shall we say, bored housewives and so on, into the kink community. It's been kind of invasive. It's far from the only problem that there's been. There has been something of an invasion of men of a certain age looking for something, and commensurate to that there's also been entryism by the same kind of social justice warrior, everything you like is wrong mentality that we find in all sorts of places. In a lot of ways, kink is like a fandom, just, you know, with sex and sexy things going on. So when you sort of join the scene, it's a lot more like joining a sci-fi club or a gaming group or something. You know, there's all these social dynamics and politics that people have, and you need to find people that you get on with and can communicate with, and you know, are into the same kind of things, you know, so you've got that whole rapport going on. That's the best analogy I can think of that resembles what it is actually like. Not that you even need to get into the scene to have fun, but a lot of people are getting into this without knowing what they're getting into, and that's a route to a bad time for everyone. And normally I'm all for giving writers complete free rein of expression to say whatever they want, have whatever they want happen within their books. But it's kind of post hoc, after the fact, that I see the problems with 50 Shades in particular, because people are wanting to take this into their real lives, because it's a fantasy that it is possible to bring into your real life, and yet it's about the worst example possible. If you want to see a good representation of kink in cinema, I would strongly suggest that you watch Secretary instead.
There are other ways to show your feelings. We can't do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Why not?
How to explain it? Okay, look, you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Marge writes that bodice-ripping romance novel about whaling, yeah? And she knows absolutely nothing about, you know, colonial America or whaling or any of that stuff at all, and so it's just hilariously wrong and bad and stupid. Okay, even without them putting any comedy into it, you know, eating blowholes and all the rest of it. And Homer, always stand-in, coming back with a seagull and slapping it on the table, but she knows absolutely nothing about that period. Just as whoever, how was it, E.L. James, wasn't it? This person who wrote 50 Shades knows absolutely nothing about kink or bondage or anything else. If you ever run into someone like Christian Grey, run for the fucking hills. Okay, the man is a stalker and really a rapist. You don't want anything to do with anyone like that, billionaire or not. You just get out of there. So the most important thing probably to understand about the kink scene is that consent is absolutely baked in. It's integral to everything. Everything is negotiated. You have to understand each other, what you want, what you don't want. There's the concept of safe words, which is something you say when something is out of bounds or getting too far out of bounds for you, and that calls a halt. You know, it's the whole dominant submission thing, but really, in any circumstance, the submissive is really the one in control of what goes on and what doesn't go on. The dominant might initiate, suggest or whatever, but the submissive can always call a halt and say no. And this even applies to consensual non-consent. If I use the more appropriate word for that, things are going to get demonetized. Grape lay, shall we say? Even there, it's negotiated consent. You know, you say, okay, I want you to do this to me at some point, and you've still got that, you know, right to bust out the safe word and bring an end to it. So that's really important to understand. That's the key integral thing to understand about kink. Another really important thing is that you can't just jump into this. You need to know things. And that even with spanking, yeah, you need to know where is safe, how hard is safe, what implements are safe to use, and how hard you can safely use them, how much your partner really wants and likes, and so on. Candles, you need to use particular kinds of candles, because otherwise the wax can be too hot if you drip that onto someone's skin. So you need to be careful with that. Tying people up, right? You can't just go about it the way you tie up a meat joint for your roast on a Sunday. There's particular ways to tie that are safe, or at least safer. You know, you don't want to cut off circulation. You don't want to cause, you know, too much rope burn or anything else. You need to know what you're doing. You need to have a pair of safety scissors, surgical bent safety scissors, so you can cut the ropes in a hurry if need be. You should be really careful about things like choking and so on. And you need to consider things like visible bruises and so on, because the natural conclusion that people are going to come to is that you're being abused. You know, so you really have to know what you're doing. You have to build up to it. You have to do your reading, watch your videos, you know, buy an instructional book, go to munches, which are non-sexual meetings of people who are into kink, to discuss and talk about this stuff, and meet like-minded people who might be able to teach you and help you out. People are usually more than willing to do that. You know, there's all this stuff that you need to know. You can't just dive right in, because someone is very likely to get hurt or embarrassed or pushed too far or something. So, you know, keep your head together going into this kind of thing. It shouldn't need saying really, but be as careful as you would be in any other part of the dating scene. Yeah, it can be easy to get caught up and excited and take risks, because the whole thing is a kind of risk is part of kink, I think. Transgression is part of kink, I think. So, but temptation is there to be fast and loose and whatever else. But take the same care with your partners in kink as you would anywhere else in your life. You know, there are predators in the scene, and there are a lot of amateur doms who think that being an asshole is the same thing as being dominant, and it's not. So you be careful. Make sure you find someone with whom you're actually genuinely compatible. You know, you like the same kind of stuff, bounce off each other, maybe push each other's boundaries a little bit, whatever. but make sure you're safe. You know, especially if you're in the submissive position, you might end up in a helpless position through the course of play. You need to be with someone you trust, just as in any other relationship. You know, sure, there's predators in kink. There's predators everywhere. Well, not everywhere. You know, it's actually very rare, but you know they are out there, and so you should be careful. You know, just like there's serial killers on Craigslist or whatever. It's incredibly rare, but it does happen. So you know, you need to be careful. You need to be compatible. You need to be compassionate. I think it's all the kind of stuff that comes into play in any other relationship is just as applicable here. Look, the last thing I want to do is to put anyone off. You know, if you think you might be into this, then go for it. I encourage you to do so. Just go in with your eyes open, be careful, make sure you know what you're doing. You know, if you've got a partner already, ease them into it. They might not be into it. They might not want to do it, you know. You can't force it on somebody. You know, just find someone you're compatible with and enjoy yourself and learn. Take the time to learn. Don't just jump in thinking you can do it all or it's easy. Things like this film, other things around it, you know, they create a false impression of what it's like and what you need to know and how it is, you know. But it's a graspable fantasy, one that can be brought into reality, apart from the whole billionaire boyfriend bit. But that's what makes it tricky. You know, it's not like a lot of other fantasies that people have, power fantasies, violence fantasies, things like that, things that you know are out of your reach. BDSM play is in everybody's reach, but you still need to learn and be careful. Above all, keep it safe, sane, and consensual. Zang.
Tal, friend, and welcome to Gore. Savage and beautiful, John Norman's Gorean saga is brought to life in the Tales of Gore role-playing game and its companion world book, World of Gore. Take flight on a tarn, luxuriate in the bathhouses of Ar, pit your steel against the deadly Kuri, best your enemies and place them in your collar. Tales of Gore uses the D6 system, perfect for both new and old players. You can purchase it from Amazon, RPG Now, or lulu.com. Ta Sada Gore.
And suits. That's completely unrealistic. Who'd want to wear a suit for a BDSM session? I mean, it's dry clean only. That's going to be a lot of explaining to do, isn't it?